The council chamber floated in the darkness between stars. Inside the massive crystal structure, beings from 100 different worlds gathered in their usual seats. Some had fur, others had scales, and some were just floating clouds of gas held together by energy fields. They came in all shapes and sizes, but they all had one thing in common. They believed they were civilized, peaceful, and superior. Hyunwoo sat in the human section, a small corner near the back. He wore a simple black suit and watched the proceedings with tired eyes. He had been Earth's ambassador for 3 years now, and in that time he had learned one important truth. The other species did not respect humans. They called Earth a death world, a planet so dangerous that only crazy creatures could survive there. They said humans were violent, primitive, and barely worth talking to. He did not argue with them anymore. What was the point? The chamber doors opened with a sound like breaking glass. Everyone turned to look. A group of Velkhari stumbled inside, and the entire room went silent. The Velkhari were tall insect-like beings with hard shells that shimmered green and gold. They were known across the galaxy as wealthy traders and proud merchants. They never showed weakness, but today they looked broken. Their leader, whose name translated roughly as Clicking Wind, walked to the center of the chamber. His legs shook with each step. His antennae drooped instead of standing tall. Behind him, the other Velkhari made soft clicking sounds that Hyunwoo's translator said meant crying. "Honored Council," Clicking Wind began, his voice coming out as rapid clicks and whistles. "We come before you in our darkest hour. 3 of our colony worlds are gone. Not conquered. Not occupied, gone, consumed." A hologram appeared above the chamber floor. It showed a beautiful green planet with silver cities. Then the image changed. Black ships, thousands of them, swarmed across the planet like locusts. The cities crumbled. The forests burned. Within hours, the entire planet was gray and dead, stripped of everything living. The Ravagers came from dark space. Clicking Wind continued. "We do not know what they are or what they want. They do not answer our messages. They do not stop. They only consume. We tried to fight them." His voice broke. "We lost 600 ships in the first battle. They lost nothing. Their numbers never decrease." The hologram showed another battle. Velkhari warships fired weapons that could crack moons. The Black Swarm barely noticed. They covered the ships like ants covering food, and the proud vessels went silent one by one. "We need help," Clicking Wind said simply. "Please, we are begging you." The chamber erupted in conversation. Different species spoke in different ways. Some used sounds, others used light, and a few used smells. But Hyunwoo understood them all through his translator, and what he heard made his jaw tighten. The Nostrum spoke first. They were beings that looked like jellyfish floating in tanks of special fluid. They were famous for their logic and mathematics. "We have calculated the success rate of military intervention," the Nostrum speaker said in a voice like wind chimes. "It is 23%. This is not acceptable. We cannot risk our resources on such low odds." The Thulian ambassador stood next. The Thulians looked like large lizards that walked on 2 legs. They had the biggest military in the galaxy, but they only used it for defense. "The Velkhari situation is tragic," the Thulian said with a voice like grinding rocks. "But we cannot project force so far from our borders. Our fleets exist to protect Thulian worlds, not to chase unknown threats across the galaxy." One by one, the species spoke. One by one, they offered sympathy but nothing else. The Aqualis said the Ravagers might be a natural force like a storm, and fighting them would be pointless. The Drekar said their religion forbade them from taking aggressive action. The Pentari said they would pray for the Velkhari but could offer no ships. Hyunwoo watched Clicking Wind's antennae droop lower and lower. The Velkhari had always been proud. They had laughed at humans once, calling them muscle-bound primitives from a savage world. Now they were desperate and no one would help them. Clicking Wind fell to his knees. In Velkhari culture, this was the ultimate sign of desperation. "Please," he said again. "Anyone, we will pay anything. Give anything. Just help us save our last colonies. Our children are on those worlds." Silence filled the chamber. The other species looked away. They had their reasons, their calculations, their rules. None of them wanted to get involved. Hyunwoo felt something hot rise in his chest. He had felt it before, back on Earth when he saw bullies picking on someone weaker, when he saw injustice and everyone else looked away. His grandmother had told him once that the measure of a person was what they did when no one else would act. He stood up. The chamber noticed immediately. Humans rarely spoke in council. Most species were surprised humans even had a seat at all. Hyun-woo walked down to the center floor, his footsteps echoing in the quiet. "Earth will help you," he said clearly. For a moment, no one reacted. Then the chamber exploded with sound and light and smell. The Nostrum's tank bubbled with what might have been laughter. The Thulian ambassador hissed. A dozen other species made sounds of disbelief. "The human speaks," the Nostrum said, its voice dripping with condescension. "Tell us, ambassador of the Death World, how exactly do you plan to help? Your species has been in space for barely 50 years. You have 30 warships. The Velkari lost 600 ships in one battle. What can you possibly do?" Hyun-woo looked at the Nostrum calmly. "We can try. Your ships are primitive," the Thulian said. "Your weapons are outdated. Your tactics are from a species that still fights wars on its own planet. You would be destroyed in hours." "Maybe," Hyun-woo agreed. "But we will still go." Clicking Wind stared at Hyun-woo with his large compound eyes. "Why?" he asked. "We have never been kind to your people. We called you savages. We laughed at your world and your ways. Why would you help us?" Hyun-woo smiled, but it was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who had made up their mind. "Because someone has to, and because you have never seen us fight." The Thulian laughed, a sound like rocks falling. "We have studied your military history, human. You fight each other constantly. You have wars over resources, over beliefs, over lines on maps. You are violent and aggressive. These qualities do not make you strong against a real threat." "You are wrong," Hyun-woo said quietly. "Those qualities are exactly why we will help. We know what it means to fight. We know what it means to lose. We know what it costs to survive. And we know that when someone is in trouble, you do not calculate odds. You do not make excuses. You help." He turned to Clicking Wind. "Tell us where to go. We will be there." The Velkari ambassador made a sound that the translator could not interpret, but Hyun-woo thought it might be hope. "The last colony world is Kestris 4. We have 200 ships there. The Ravagers will arrive in 10 days. If they take Kestris, we will be finished as a species. Then we have 10 days to get there," Hyun-woo said. He looked around the chamber at all the superior species, the logical ones, the peaceful ones, the civilized ones. "Watch us. Learn what Deathworlders can do." He walked out of the chamber, already composing the message he would send to Earth. Behind him, the council erupted into argument again, but he did not care. He had work to do. In his quarters later, Hyun-woo sent the encrypted message to the Terran Defense Command. He kept it simple. "The galaxy has a problem. They refused to solve it. We said yes. Send the fleet." The response came back in under an hour. Just 2 words from Admiral Ji-won. "Already moving." Hyun-woo smiled. "That was humanity for you. Always ready for a fight, especially when it was the right thing to do." Admiral Ji-won stood on the bridge of the TDF Grizzly and watched Earth grow smaller behind them. She was 50 years old, with gray streaks in her black hair and scars on her hands from working with machinery her whole life. She had fought in the resource wars back on Earth, had seen the worst that humans could do to each other. Now she commanded humanity's largest warship, and she was about to show the galaxy what humans could do for each other. "Status report," she said calmly. "All 30 ships are in formation." Her second officer replied. "Engines running at 98%. Weapon systems green. We will reach Velkari space in 8 days." Ji-won nodded. 8 days to get ready. 8 days to prepare for a battle against an enemy that had destroyed 600 alien ships without breaking a sweat. The logical thing to do would be to run away. But logic and humanity did not always agree. "Send a message to the fleet," she said. "All captains report to the Grizzly for briefing in 2 hours. We need to plan." As her crew worked, Ji-won thought about how humanity had gotten here. 50 years ago, humans had invented faster-than-light travel by accident. A physicist named Dr. Kim had been trying to create a better battery, and instead had opened a hole in space. Within 10 years, humanity had built ships and found the Galactic Council. The other species had been horrified. They looked at Earth and saw a nightmare planet. Gravity so strong it would crush most species. Weather that could kill in minutes. Earthquakes, volcanoes, hurricanes, and tsunamis happening all the time. Thousands of species all trying to eat each other. The Council called it a Class 12 death world, one of the most dangerous planets in known space. They looked at humans and saw monsters, beings that could survive in conditions that would kill anyone else. Beings that ate meat, that had forward-facing eyes like predators, that had evolved from hunter-gatherers. beings that still fought wars on their own planet. The Council had given humanity a seat at the table, but only because it was safer to watch them than to ignore them. They created rules. Humans could not expand beyond their own solar system. Humans could not build more than 50 warships. Humans could not interfere in galactic politics, and humanity had agreed to all of it. They were the newcomers. They would play by the rules, until now. 2 hours later, the captains gathered in the Grizzlies' briefing room. Captain Taeyang of the Orca, Captain Minsu of the Tiger Shark, Captain Bora of the Wolf, and 27 others. All of them human. All of them from Earth. All of them ready to fight. "Let me make this clear," G1 said as they sat down. "We are about to fight an enemy we know nothing about. The Velkari lost 600 ships. We have 30. The odds are terrible. Some of us will not come home." No one looked away. No one argued. "But we said yes," G1 continued. "We gave our word. So now we figure out how to win." Lieutenant Sojin stepped forward. She was young, only 25, with sharp eyes and a mind that never stopped working. She was the fleet's xenobiologist, an expert on alien life. She had been studying the footage of the Ravager attacks for the last 2 days without sleeping. "I have a theory," Sojin said, bringing up images on the screen. "Look at how the Ravagers move. Fast but not agile. They swarm in straight lines. They overwhelm with numbers, not tactics. I think they evolved on a low-gravity world, maybe even in space itself. They have never fought anyone like us." "And what do you mean?" Taeyang asked. "Earth's gravity is 1.2 times galactic standard," Sojin explained. "Most Council species evolved on gentle worlds with light gravity and peaceful conditions. Their ships are designed for efficiency and speed. Their tactics are about precision and minimal casualties. But we are different." She pulled up specifications for the Grizzly. The ship was ugly compared to alien vessels. Blocky and covered in armor plating. It had redundant systems for every major component. 3 separate power cores, 4 backup life support systems, weapons placed all over the hull instead of in elegant arrays. "Human ships are built like tanks," Sojin said. "We can take hits that would destroy an alien ship. We can pull maneuvers at G-forces that would kill other species. And our crews can function in conditions that others would find impossible." She showed footage from a training exercise, human pilots executing turns that created 8 Gs of force. In the background, you could see the pilots' faces compressed by the pressure, but they kept working. They kept fighting. "The Ravagers have never faced prey that fights back this hard," Sojin concluded. "They do not know what we are capable of." Bora leaned forward. "So what is the plan?" G1 smiled. It was not a nice smile. "We do what humans do best. We adapt, we surprise them, and we hit them harder than they have ever been hit before." Over the next 6 days, the fleet trained constantly. They practiced formations that no alien species used, too aggressive and too risky. They drilled on damage control procedures that assumed the ship would be breached and on fire. They prepared for the kind of fighting that the peaceful Council species could not imagine. On the 7th day, a Velkari observer ship joined them. The insect-like aliens had asked permission to witness the human fleet, to see what Earth was sending to help them. G1 had agreed. Captain Taeyang gave them a tour of the Orca. The Velkari observers, who introduced themselves as Brightwind and Silent Claw, followed him nervously. Everything about the human ship seemed wrong to them. Too hot, too loud, too aggressive. "Why are there weapons in the hallways?" Brightwind asked, pointing to racks of rifles and pistols. "In case we are boarded," Taeyang said simply. "Boarded? You plan to let enemies onto your ship?" "We plan for every possibility." They entered the training room where human soldiers were practicing hand-to-hand combat in full armor. The Velkari watched in horror as humans threw each other across the room, smashed into walls, and kept fighting. One human had blood running from their nose but continued the exercise. "They are injured," Silent Claw said. "Why do they not stop?" "That is barely injured," Taeyang said. "Watch." The soldiers finished their exercise, then immediately started lifting weights. Heavy weights. The kind that would require machinery for most species. The humans picked them up and put them down over and over, their faces red with effort. "You train your people to endure pain," Brightwind said quietly. "We train our people to win," Taeyang corrected. "On Earth, nature is not gentle. Our ancestors survived ice ages, droughts, predators, and diseases. The weak ones died. The strong ones lived and had children. For millions of years, Earth tried to kill us. We learned to be tough. They moved to the medical bay next. The Valkyrie expected to see sophisticated alien healing technology. Instead, they saw simple beds, basic tools, and human doctors who worked with their hands. "Where are your regeneration tanks?" Brightwind asked. "We do not have those," the medical officer, Dr. Hana, replied. "We use surgery, medicine, and time. The human body is very good at healing itself if you give it a chance. But that must take weeks. Sometimes months." Hana agreed. "But it works. Humans are hard to kill." On the bridge, Silent Claw asked the question that had been bothering him. "Why are you helping us?" "Your ambassador said you would, but I do not understand why. We have not been friends. Your species is restricted from most of the galaxy. We gain nothing from your help and you risk everything." "It makes no logical sense," Taeyang thought for a moment. "There is a story from Earth, a parable. A man was walking on a beach covered with starfish that had washed ashore. They were dying in the sun. The man started throwing them back into the ocean one by one. Another person saw him and said, 'There are thousands of starfish. You cannot save them all. Your efforts do not matter.' The first man picked up another starfish, threw it into the water, and said, 'It mattered to that one.'" Silent Claw's antennae twitched in confusion. "I do not understand." "We help because we can," Taeyang said. "Because it is right. Because if we have the power to save lives and choose not to, what does that make us?" The two Valkyrie were quiet for a long time after that. On the 8th day, the fleet arrived at Kestris 4. The planet hung in space like a blue and green jewel. 200 Valkyrie ships orbited it in defensive positions. When the human fleet appeared, the Valkyrie sent a message. "Human vessels, we are grateful you have come. But we must warn you. Our scouts report the Ravagers are only hours away. Their numbers are beyond counting. We have calculated that we have a 4% chance of survival. You still have time to leave." Ji-Won opened a channel to the entire fleet. "All ships, battle stations. No one is leaving. We came here to fight, so let us fight." Across the fleet, alarms sounded. Weapons powered up. Crews strapped into their seats. And humanity prepared to show the galaxy what Deathworlders could really do. The Ravagers arrived like a black tide. They came from the dark between stars. Thousands of ships that looked like they had been grown instead of built. Each vessel was organic, covered in dark chitin that absorbed light. They moved together in perfect coordination, a swarm that had no beginning and no end. Just endless hunger. On the bridge of the Grizzly, Admiral Ji-Won watched them approach. Her crew was silent, staring at the sensor displays that showed more enemy contacts than their computers could count. The screen just said, "Error, too many targets." "Well," Ji-Won said calmly, "that is a lot of them." Her weapons officer, a young man named Kyung-Soo, laughed nervously. "Admiral, I have never seen anything like this. How do we even target them?" "We point at the biggest group and shoot," Ji-Won said. "Simple." Across the fleet, 30 human ships moved into formation. They did not spread out like the Valkyrie ships. They stayed close, forming a wall of metal and weapons between the planet and the swarm. It looked suicidal. It probably was. The Valkyrie commander opened a channel. "Human fleet, what are you doing?" "You must spread out. If you stay together, they will overwhelm you all at once." "That is the idea," Ji-Won replied. "They want to overwhelm us? Let them try." Lieutenant So-Jin was at her station, monitoring the Ravager movements. She had been right about their patterns. They moved in straight lines, no fancy tactics. Just pure aggression and numbers. But something else caught her attention. "Admiral, I am reading their biology now that they are closer. Their exoskeletons are thin, very thin, maybe only a few centimeters of protection, and their internal structure is optimized for low-gravity environments. If we hit them hard, they will break." "How hard?" Ji-Won asked. "Anything we have should work. Even our point defense guns would damage them." "But Admiral, they are fast." "Very fast," Ji-Won nodded. "Speed versus strength. The eternal equation of combat." "Then we make them come to us." All ships form up, overlapping fields of fire. Nothing gets through. The Ravagers did not slow down. They did not send messages. They did not demand surrender. They just came, silent and hungry. The first wave hit the Valkyrie defensive line. The insect-like aliens fought bravely, firing their energy weapons into the swarm. Each shot destroyed a Ravager ship, turning it into expanding vapor. But for every one they killed, 10 more took its place. Within minutes, the Valkyrie formation began to break apart. "Valkyrie ships are retreating," the sensor officer reported. "They are falling back to secondary positions." "Let them go." Ji-Wan said. Our turn now. All ships open fire. The human fleet unleashed everything at once. Missiles, railguns, lasers, and plasma cannons. The weapons were primitive by galactic standards, but they were loud and violent and very, very human. Explosions lit up space like a new sun being born. The Ravagers flew directly into it. Hundreds died in the first seconds. Then thousands. Human weapons were designed to punch through heavy armor and destroy fortified positions. Against the lightly armored Ravagers, every shot was devastating. A single railgun round would tear through 3 or 4 ships before its energy was spent. But the Ravagers kept coming. They are not stopping, Kyung-Soo said, his voice rising. We are killing them by the hundreds and they do not even slow down. Good, Ji-Wan said. Keep shooting. The swarm crashed into the human formation like a wave hitting rocks. Ravager ships tried to surround the human vessels, to overwhelm them with sheer numbers. But the humans had planned for this. Every ship had weapons on all sides. As the Ravagers swarmed around them, they found no blind spots, no safe approach. Just constant, brutal firepower. On the Orca, Captain Tae-Yang watched as his ship was surrounded. Ravager vessels pressed close, trying to latch onto the hull. He could hear them scratching at the armor, trying to find a way inside. Point defense, continuous fire, he ordered. Do not let them settle. Small guns all over the Orca's hull opened fire. They were designed to shoot down missiles, but they worked just as well against the fragile Ravagers. Hundreds of the organic ships exploded into fragments. Then the hull breach alarm sounded. Section 12, outer hull, the damage control officer reported. They got through. We have Ravagers inside the ship. This was the moment the Velkari observers had feared. A breach meant death for most species. You evacuated, sealed the section, and ran. But Captain Tae-Yang did not order evacuation. Security teams to Section 12. Full combat gear. Kill anything that is not human. Bright Wind, the Velkari observer, stared in horror. You are sending your people into the breached section? They will die. Maybe, Tae-Yang said. But the Ravagers definitely will. In Section 12, the atmosphere had explosively decompressed. Frost covered every surface. Any normal crew would be dead. But the human security team wore powered armor that could handle vacuum. They entered the damaged section with rifles ready. The Ravagers were there, dozens of them. Up close, they looked like a nightmare combination of an insect and a shark. Black chitin, multiple eyes and mouths full of teeth. They screeched when they saw the humans, a sound that could not travel through vacuum but came through the armor's sensors anyway. The battle was short and brutal. Human rifles fired solid slugs that punched through the Ravagers' thin armor. The creatures tried to swarm the security team, but in close combat, humans had millions of years of evolution as persistence hunters. They were strong, fast, and most importantly, they did not panic. 5 minutes later, the security team leader reported back. Section 12 secure. 23 hostiles eliminated. 2 of our people injured, but they will live. Sealing the breach now. On the bridge, Tae-Yang allowed himself a small smile. Damage control patched that section. We are not done fighting yet. Bright Wind's antennae drooped in shock. Your people fought them hand to hand in vacuum. And won. Deathworlders, Tae-Yang said simply. Across the fleet, similar scenes played out. The Tiger Shark took 3 breaches and repelled all of them. The Wolf lost a weapons array but kept fighting with half power. The Eagle took so much damage that it was flying on backup systems, but its captain refused to retreat. Admiral Ji-Wan watched the battle display and made calculations. They were killing Ravagers at an incredible rate. Thousands were dead, but thousands more kept coming. The human fleet could not sustain this forever. They needed to break the swarm's momentum, make them retreat. Sojin, she said, you said these things evolved to swarm and overwhelm. What happens to a swarm if you kill its center? The lieutenant thought for a moment. In Earth insects, the swarm would become confused. They would scatter or become disorganized. But Admiral, we cannot reach the center. There are too many of them. What if we go through them? Ji-Wan asked. The entire bridge went quiet. Go through? That was insane. That was suicide. That was exactly the kind of thing humans did. All ships, Ji-Wan broadcast. Form up on the Grizzly. We are going to punch through their formation and hit whatever is on the other side. Maximum thrust. Ram anything in our way. The Velkari commander's voice came over the radio, speaking rapid clicks of panic. Human Admiral, you cannot ram them. Your ships will be destroyed. Our ships are tough, Ji-Wan replied. Let us see how tough. The 30 human vessels formed a wedge with the Grizzly at the point. Their engines flared to maximum power, and they charged directly into the thickest part of the swarm. It was like flying through a storm of razors. Ravager ships tried to block them, but the reinforced human hulls smashed through. The Grizzly's armored prow was designed to survive asteroid collisions. The organic Ravager ships crumpled like paper against it. Alarms blared across the bridge. Hull breach on Deck 5. Fire and engineering. Shield generator offline. Keep going, Ji-Wan ordered. The fleet carved a path through the swarm, leaving a trail of destroyed Ravagers behind them. The organic ships tried to surround them, tried to stop them. But the humans would not stop. They could not stop. If they slowed down, they would be buried under sheer numbers. Then they broke through. On the other side of the swarm was something massive, a structure that dwarfed even the largest human ship. It was organic like the others, but huge, easily 10 kilometers across. Pulsing veins of light ran across its surface, and from it, more Ravager ships were being born, growing out of the structure like fruit from a tree. That is their hive ship, Sojin said with awe. That is where they are coming from. Then we kill it, Ji-Wan said. All ships target that structure. Everything we have. Fire. 30 ships unleashed their full arsenals at point-blank range. Missiles streaked across the void. Railguns fired until their barrels glowed red. Plasma cannons burned with artificial stars, and the hive ship burned. It was not a clean death. The structure writhed and screamed, sounds that came through radio waves and made every display crackle. Ravager ships stopped their attack and turned back, trying to protect their hive. But it was too late. The hive ship exploded, not all at once, but in a cascade of failures that spread across its entire structure. Pieces of it flew in every direction. The light coming from it flickered and died, and the Ravager swarm broke. Without coordination, the individual ships scattered. Some fled into deep space. Others attacked each other in confusion. The overwhelming tide became a disorganized mob, and the human fleet cut through them without mercy. Within an hour, it was over. The surviving Ravagers had fled. The fleet drifted in orbit around Kestra's 4, damaged but not broken. Repair crews worked around the clock, fixing hull breaches and replacing burned-out systems. The dead were honored in simple ceremonies, their bodies sent toward the nearest star as was human tradition in space. 147 names added to a list that humanity hoped would not grow much longer. Admiral Ji-Wan stood in the observation deck of the Grizzly, looking down at the planet below. It was beautiful with blue oceans and green continents. Millions of Velkari lived down there, and they did not even know how close they had come to extinction. She was glad they were safe. But she was not satisfied. Captain Taeyang found her there. Admiral, the Velkari commander wishes to meet with you. They want to thank us and discuss our departure. Our departure? Ji-Wan raised an eyebrow. We are not leaving yet, ma'am. The Ravagers ran away, but they are still out there. They will attack somewhere else, consume some other world. We did not solve the problem. We just delayed it? Taeyang understood immediately. You want to go after them? I want to finish this, Ji-Wan said firmly. We did not come all this way just to win one battle. We came to help, and the job is not done. An hour later, Ji-Wan met with the Velkari commander via hologram. His name was Sharpmind, and he looked exhausted. His antennae drooped, and his shell had lost some of its shine. But there was hope in his large compound eyes. Admiral Ji-Wan, he said with deep clicks that the translator turned into words. On behalf of the Velkari people, I thank you. You saved millions of lives today. We owe humanity a debt we cannot repay. You owe us nothing, Ji-Wan said. We did what was right. But Sharpmind, the Ravagers are still out there. They will attack again. Yes, Sharpmind agreed sadly. We know. We have already begun evacuating our outer colonies. We will pull everyone back to our core worlds and defend there. It is all we can do. Or we could hunt them down and destroy them. The Velkari commander went very still. Hunt them? Admiral, with respect, that is madness. They have thousands of ships. You have 30 and half of them are damaged. Even with your incredible victory here, you cannot defeat their entire species. Maybe not, Ji-Wan admitted. But we can hurt them badly enough that they never threaten you again. That is what humans do. When something threatens those under our protection, we do not just defend. We eliminate the threat. Sharpmind's antennae twitched in confusion. Under your protection? Admiral, we are not allies. We are barely friends. Why would you risk so much for us? Ji-Wan smiled. Because someone has to. Now can you track them? Can you find where they went? The Velkari was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, Yes, we have been tracking their bioelectric signatures. They left a trail across 3 star systems. But Admiral, you must understand what you are proposing. You want to take your damaged fleet into deep space far from any support, to attack an enemy on their home ground. This is suicide. Then help us make it less suicidal. Share your tracking data. Tell us everything you know about them, and we will handle the rest. Sharpmind looked at her with something like awe. You truly mean this? You will hunt them for us. We will hunt them for everyone, G1 corrected. For you, for us, for every species that the Ravagers might threaten in the future. This ends now. The next 2 days were spent preparing. The Velkari shared everything they knew about the Ravagers. Lieutenant Sojin and Engineer Donghyun worked with Velkari scientists to improve their tracking methods. They discovered that the Ravagers left a unique energy signature, like a smell that could be followed across the void. Donghyun was a genius with technology. He could look at any system and understand how to make it better. Working with the Velkari equipment, he built new sensors for the human fleet that could track the Ravagers across dozens of light years. It is not perfect, he admitted to Admiral G1. The trail gets weaker over time. But if we move fast, we can follow them. How fast can we move with the damaged ships? G1 asked. 3 days to the first system. Maybe 5 days to wherever they are gathering. But Admiral, the ships are in bad shape. The Grizzly lost a quarter of its armor. The Orca has hull breaches we patched with emergency sealant. The Eagle is running on backup power. If we push too hard, we might lose ships just from the travel. Can they fight? Donghyun hesitated. Yes, but not like before. We used up most of our missiles. The railguns need new barrels. Half our ships have damage that affects their maneuverability. Admiral, we need time to properly repair. Time we do not have, G1 said. Every day we wait, the Ravagers could attack another world. We go now with what we have. The fleet departed Kestris 4 with the blessings of the Velkari people. As they left orbit, thousands of messages came from the planet's surface. Thank you messages in Velkari clicking language, prayers for their safety, promises that humanity would never be forgotten. Ambassador Hyun-woo, who had joined the fleet after the first battle, read some of them aloud on the bridge. They are calling us saviors, heroes, the defenders who came when no one else would. We are just doing our job, Ji-won said quietly. No, Hyun-woo corrected. We are doing what others should have done. There is a difference. They followed the trail through 3 star systems. The first 2 showed signs of Ravager passage, stripped asteroids, dead moons where mining operations had been consumed. The creatures were eating everything they could find, growing their numbers. In the 3rd system, they found something worse. Admiral, Sojin called out, her voice shaking. I am reading a massive bioelectric signature ahead. It is not moving. I think we found their main hive. The structure appeared on their screens and the entire crew went silent. It was enormous, easily 100 kilometers across. It looked like a massive organic station, with thousands of Ravager ships swarming around it like bees around a hive. This was not just a ship. This was their home. How many ships are we looking at? Ji-won asked calmly. At least 10,000, the sensor officer reported. Maybe more. They are hard to count because they keep moving. 10,000 ships, 30 human vessels. The math was not good. Captain Tae-yang spoke up from his ship. Admiral, we cannot win a direct fight. Even if we perform as well as before, the numbers are too extreme. I know, Ji-won said. So we do not fight directly. Sojin, what is that hive made of? The lieutenant pulled up her analysis. It is organic like their ships. But there is something else. High concentrations of volatile chemicals. They use them for fuel for growing new ships, for everything. Admiral, if those chemicals ignite, the entire structure would explode. How do we ignite them? A large enough heat source. A nuclear weapon would do it. But Admiral, our nuclear missiles cannot penetrate that deep into the structure. The outer shells would absorb the blast. Ji-won thought for a moment. Then she smiled, and everyone on the bridge felt a chill. They knew that smile. We do not launch the missiles from outside. We take them inside. The plan was simple and completely insane. A strike team would take a shuttle, fly through the swarm, enter the hive structure, plant nuclear charges at key points, and escape before detonation. The chances of survival were less than 10%. It was a suicide mission in everything but name. I will lead it, Captain Tae-yang said immediately. No, Ji-won began. Admiral, with respect, I am the best pilot in the fleet. I can fly through that swarm. And my crew is trained for boarding actions. We can do this, Ji-won wanted to argue. Tae Yang was one of her best officers, a friend, someone she had known for 15 years. But he was right. He had the best chance of success. Take volunteers only, she said finally. No one is ordered to do this. Every single person on the Orca volunteered. Tae Yang chose 20 people. Engineers to plant the charges, soldiers to protect them, and the best pilot on the ship to fly the shuttle. They loaded 3 nuclear warheads, each powerful enough to crack a small moon. Before they left, Tae Yang sent a message to Ji-won. If this works, the entire hive will explode. The blast will be visible across the sector. Make sure the Velkari know that humans finished the job. Come back alive, Ji-won said. That is an order. I will try, Admiral. The shuttle launched. It was small and fast, painted black to blend with space. Tae Yang flew it personally, his hands steady on the controls. Behind him, his crew prepared weapons and equipment. No one spoke. There was nothing to say. The human fleet opened fire on the hive, drawing attention. Thousands of Ravager ships swarmed toward them, seeing an easy target. The fleet retreated slowly, leading them away from the hive. In the chaos, one small shuttle slipped through. Tae Yang flew like a madman. He dodged between Ravager ships, used their own bodies as cover, flew through debris fields that would make most pilots crash. Twice, Ravagers tried to intercept them. Twice, the shuttle's guns cut them down. They were close now. So close. They reached the hive's surface and found an opening, a wound in the structure where some previous battle had damaged it. Tae Yang flew inside without hesitation. The interior was a nightmare. Organic tunnels that pulsed with light, chambers where new Ravager ships were growing, and everywhere the smell of chemicals so strong it made their sensors scream warnings. Landing zone ahead, Tae Yang said. Everyone out. We have 30 minutes. The crew worked with practiced efficiency. They ran through the corridors of the hive. The chase lasted 3 days. The human fleet hunted down the scattered Ravagers across 2 star systems. Without their hive, without coordination, the creatures were just animals. Dangerous animals, but animals nonetheless. One by one, the human ships destroyed them. By the end, fewer than 100 Ravager vessels remained, and they fled into the deepest parts of space where no one could follow. The war was over. Admiral Ji-won sat in her quarters on the Grizzly, staring at a photograph. It showed her and Captain Tae Yang from 15 years ago, both younger, both smiling after their first mission together. She had written the letters to his family. She had recorded the message that would play at his memorial, but it did not feel like enough. It would never be enough. A soft knock on her door. Enter. Lieutenant Sojin stepped inside. The young woman looked exhausted, dark circles under her eyes. Admiral, the Council has sent a message. They want us to return immediately. They have called an emergency session. Good, Ji-won said quietly. I have some things I want to say to them. The fleet limped back toward Council space. They had started with 30 ships. They returned with 29. The Orca was gone, destroyed with its captain still aboard. 4 other ships were so damaged they could barely fly. But they had won. Against impossible odds, humanity had won. News of the battle spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. The peaceful species of the Council could not believe it. Humans, the primitive Deathworlders, had destroyed the Ravagers. They had done what no one else could or would. The reactions were mixed. Some species were grateful. The Velkari began calling humanity their eternal allies. Other minor species who lived in fear of the Ravagers celebrated in the streets. But the major powers of the Council felt something different. They felt fear. When the human fleet arrived at the Council station, they found a military escort waiting. Ships from the Thulian Empire, the most powerful military in known space. The Thulian commander sent a cold message. Human vessels, you will proceed directly to the Council chambers under our supervision. No deviation will be tolerated. Ambassador Hyun-woo, standing beside Admiral Ji-won on the Grizzly's bridge, raised an eyebrow. They are treating us like prisoners. Let them, Ji-won said. We know what we did. The Council chamber was packed. Every species had sent representatives, and the gallery was filled with observers. When Admiral Ji-won and Ambassador Hyun-woo entered, a strange silence fell. Every eye, antenna, sensor, and tentacle turned toward them. The nostrums spoke first, their voice like wind chimes made of ice. Admiral Ji-won of Earth. You were sent to defend the Velkari colony of Kestris 4. Instead, you pursued the Ravagers into deep space and destroyed their primary hive. You used nuclear weapons which are banned by council law. You caused the death of an entire species. Explain yourself. G1 stood straight, her uniform perfect despite weeks of hard fighting. We went where the threat was. We used the weapons we had, and yes, we destroyed the Ravagers. Would you have preferred we left them alive to attack more worlds? That is not the point, the Thulian ambassador said, his reptilian voice harsh. The point is that you exceeded your authority. You showed aggression beyond what was necessary, and now the entire galaxy has seen what humans are capable of. We are frightened of you. Good, Hyunwoo said simply, and the chamber erupted in shocked sounds. Good? The Nostrum repeated. You think it is good that the galaxy fears you? Yes, Hyunwoo said firmly, because maybe fear will prevent the next crisis. The Velkari came to you begging for help. They showed you images of their worlds being destroyed. They told you millions would die. And what did you do? You calculated odds. You made excuses. You let them suffer because helping them was inconvenient. He walked to the center of the chamber, his voice carrying to every corner. You want to know why humans fought? Because we know what it is like to be desperate. Every human alive is descended from people who faced extinction. Ice ages, droughts, predators, diseases, starvation. For millions of years, our planet tried to kill us. We survived by helping each other, by refusing to give up, by fighting when fighting was the only option. Your aggression is exactly why you should be contained, the Thulian said. You are dangerous. We are dangerous to those who threaten the innocent, G1 agreed. But we are not your enemy. We came to this galaxy in peace. We followed your rules. We stayed in our corner of space. We asked for nothing. But when someone needed help, we said yes. That is what you should fear, not our weapons, not our aggression. You should fear that we will show the galaxy what you truly are. You are advanced. You are powerful, but you are not brave. The Nostrum's tank bubbled with agitation. We have built a civilization that has lasted millions of years without violence. We have achieved peace through logic and cooperation. What have humans achieved? 50 years in space and already you have fought a war. A war we won, Hyunwoo pointed out. A war you could not win because you have forgotten how to fight. You have grown soft in your peace. There is nothing wrong with that. Peace is good, but someone has to guard that peace. Someone has to stand between civilization and the darkness. That is what humans do. That is what we are offering you. The Velkari ambassador, Sharp Mind, stood up. His antennae stood proud now, his shell shining. The council debates while missing the truth. Humans saved my species, not the Thulians with their mighty fleets, not the Nostrum with their superior logic. Humans. They came when we had nothing to offer them. They fought when the odds were impossible, and they won when everyone said they could not. If the council fears that, then the council fears the wrong thing. Other voices joined in. The Aqualas spoke of how humans had taught them that sometimes you must fight for what is right. The Drekar, who had religious objections to violence, admitted that humans had done holy work by protecting the helpless. Species after species stood up, and the council chamber became a place of argument and debate. Finally, the lead Nostrum raised a tentacle for silence. The council recognizes that humanity acted with noble intentions. However, your methods and capabilities make you a potential threat. We propose a new status for Earth. You will become the Council's security force. When threats arise that require military action, humans will respond. In exchange, the restrictions on your expansion will be lifted. You may build more ships, colonize more worlds, and take your place among the great powers. Ji-won and Hyunwoo exchanged glances. This was more than they had hoped for. But Hyunwoo had learned to negotiate in his years as ambassador. We accept with conditions, he said. First, humans will only fight when invited, not when ordered. We are defenders, not mercenaries. Second, any species that asks for our help gets it regardless of politics. We do not play favorites. Third, the Council will provide material support for our missions. Ships, supplies, intelligence. If you want us to protect the galaxy, give us the tools to do it properly. The Nostrum calculated silently for a long moment, then agreed. Welcome to your new role, Defenders of the Council. The meeting ended and Hyunwoo and Ji-won walked back to the Grizzly together. Neither spoke until they were in private. We did it, Hyunwoo said quietly. Earth has a real place now. The galaxy will never look at us the same way. We paid a heavy price, Jiwan replied. Taeyang and his crew, 147 dead in the first battle. Another 93 in the hunt. 240 humans died to save aliens who barely knew we existed. They died heroes, Hyunwoo said, and they changed everything. Before this, we were jokes. Now we are respected, feared. That fear will save lives. The next time some threat appears, species will remember the Ravagers. They will remember that humans do not give up. A month later, on Earth's moon, humanity built a monument. It was a simple thing, just a wall of black stone with names carved into it. 240 names. Captain Taeyang's name was at the top, in letters large enough to read from orbit. Lieutenant Sojin stood before it with other survivors from the fleet. She had been promoted to full lieutenant commander now, and would serve as science officer on the new ship they were building. They were calling it the TDF Taeyang, in honor of the captain who had sacrificed everything. I studied xenobiology because I wanted to understand aliens, Sojin said to the others gathered there. I wanted to know how they thought, how they lived, how they were different from us. But this mission taught me something more important. It taught me how we are the same. The Velkari wanted to protect their families just like humans do. The Ravagers were just trying to survive just like any species would, and the Council was afraid of the unknown, just like anyone would be. But there is one thing that makes us different, she continued. Humans do not just want to survive. We want to thrive. We want to help others thrive. We walked across ice ages to find better hunting grounds. We crossed oceans to discover new lands. We went to space because that is what we do. We explore, we help. We fight when we must, and we never ever give up. She touched Taeyang's name on the monument. These people understood that. They gave their lives so that others, aliens they had never met, could live. That is the human spirit. That is what we bring to the galaxy. Across Earth, similar ceremonies took place. In Seoul, where Jiwon was born. In Busan.